Have you ever wondered how ancient philosophers managed to find peace and clarity in a world of chaos? How they developed mental resilience that seemed almost superhuman? What if I told you that a philosophical practice born over 2,300 years ago holds the key to unlocking your mind's full potential in our modern, chaotic world? Welcome to The Ancient Secret to Unlimited Mental Power: How Stoicism Can Transform Your Life in 30 Days. I'm thrilled to take you on this journey through one of history's most practical and enduring philosophies, a system of thought that has guided emperors, statesmen, artists, and everyday people through life's greatest challenges. Stoicism isn't just another self-help trend or passing fad. It's a time-tested framework for living that has survived the collapse of empires, world wars, plagues, and every imaginable human struggle. Why? Because it works. And it works because it addresses something fundamental about human nature: our tendency to be controlled by our reactions to external events rather than focusing on what we can actually control. Imagine having the ability to remain calm and clear-headed during your most stressful moments. Picture yourself developing an unshakable inner citadel that no external circumstance can breach. Envision having the mental clarity to distinguish between what you can and cannot change, saving your energy for meaningful action rather than wasteful worry. This isn't fantasy. This is the promise of Stoic practice. But let me be clear: Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or becoming a cold, unfeeling robot. That's a common misconception. True Stoicism is about understanding your emotions, examining them rationally, and choosing your responses rather than being driven by unconscious reactions. It's about cultivating joy, courage, and tranquility through wisdom and self-mastery. The ancient Stoics like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius weren't detached theorists locked away in ivory towers. They were practical men living complex lives. Seneca was a wealthy statesman who faced exile and the constant threat of execution. Epictetus was born a slave who gained his freedom and became one of history's greatest teachers. Marcus Aurelius ruled the Roman Empire during times of plague and war. These men developed Stoicism not as an academic exercise, but as a practical response to life's greatest challenges. They created a psychological toolkit that allowed them to thrive under pressure, maintain ethical clarity in morally complex situations, and find tranquility amid chaos. In the next 30 days, we'll explore how their ancient wisdom can transform your modern life. We'll break down Stoicism into practical, daily exercises that you can immediately apply to your challenges, whether you're dealing with workplace stress, relationship difficulties, health concerns, or simply the everyday anxiety of modern existence. But why 30 days? Because meaningful change requires consistent practice. The Stoics understood that philosophy isn't just something you read about, it's something you do. Daily practice rewires neural pathways, builds new habits, and gradually transforms your automatic responses to life's challenges. Think about how you learned any important skill: playing an instrument, mastering a sport, becoming proficient in your profession. It didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen through passive consumption. It happened through deliberate, consistent practice. Over these 30 days, we'll cover the three core disciplines of Stoic practice. The discipline of perception, teaching you to see situations objectively without adding emotional distortions. The discipline of action, guiding you to act with justice, purpose, and virtue. And the discipline of will, helping you accept what you cannot change while finding peace and purpose within life's constraints. You'll learn practical techniques like negative visualization, the premeditation of adversity, philosophical journaling, and the view from above. You'll discover how to apply these ancient practices to modern challenges like social media anxiety, workplace conflicts, relationship struggles, and the constant pressure to achieve more and be more. By the end of our journey, you won't have just learned about Stoicism. You'll have begun to embody it. You'll have developed new mental habits that automatically kick in during challenging situations. You'll have built your own inner citadel, a place of calm strength that remains steady regardless of external circumstances. So join me as we unlock this ancient secret to unlimited mental power, a philosophy that has guided some of history's greatest minds and can transform your life in just 30 days. The journey begins now, with a simple but profound shift in how you view the world and your place with. As we step deeper into our Stoic journey, let's begin with what many consider the cornerstone of Stoic practice, a principle so fundamental yet so revolutionary that it alone can transform your relationship with daily stress and anxiety. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who began his life as a slave and rose to become one of history's greatest teachers, opens his handbook, the Enchiridion, with these words: "Some things are within our control, and some things are not within our control." This seemingly simple observation, what modern Stoics call the dichotomy of control, is the gateway to mental freedom. It sounds straightforward, yet most of us spend our lives fighting against this basic truth, exhausting ourselves by trying to control the uncontrollable while neglecting what actually lies within our power. Think about your own life for a moment. How much mental energy do you spend worrying about things entirely outside your influence? The weather on your wedding day? The traffic during your commute? Other people's opinions about your choices? The fluctuations of the economy? The outcomes of your efforts, even when you've done your best? The Stoics recognize that this misplacement of concern is the root of much human suffering. When we invest our identity and emotional well-being in outcomes we cannot guarantee, we set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment, frustration, and anxiety. But there's profound liberation in recognizing what truly lies within our control. According to the Stoics, what we absolutely control is remarkably limited but incredibly powerful. Our judgments, our values, our decisions, our responses, and our attitudes. In short, our inner world. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who ruled Rome at the height of its power, reminded himself of this principle repeatedly in his private journals. Despite commanding the most powerful empire on earth, he understood that true power lay not in controlling external events, but in mastering his own mind. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Now, this doesn't mean we should be passive or fatalistic about external circumstances. The Stoics were anything but passive. Marcus Aurelius led armies. Seneca wrote influential plays and advised emperors. Cato fought political corruption. Musonius Rufus taught despite being exiled multiple times. The Stoic approach isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about engaging with it effectively by understanding where to direct your energy. It's about distinguishing between concern and influence, between worry and action. Let me offer a practical way to understand this. Imagine 3 concentric circles. The innermost circle contains what you have complete control over: your thoughts, judgments, intentions, and efforts. The middle circle contains things you can influence but not control: your health, your relationships, your career progress. The outermost circle contains things you cannot control at all: the weather, the economy, other people's decisions, natural disasters. Stoic wisdom teaches us to focus primarily on that innermost circle, to be mindful of the middle circle where we have some influence, and to accept with equanimity the outermost circle of things beyond our control. This mental reorientation is so powerful because it immediately redirects your energy from futile worry to effective action. When you face a challenge, the first Stoic question becomes, what aspects of this situation are within my control? This simple question cuts through confusion and anxiety, pointing you directly toward what matters. Consider a job interview. You cannot control whether you get the position. That depends on countless factors, including the other candidates, the interviewer's preferences, and the company's changing needs. But you can control your preparation, your punctuality, your presentation, your honesty, and your attitude. By focusing exclusively on these elements, you not only perform better, but also free yourself from the anxiety of attachment to outcomes. This principle extends to every domain of life. In relationships, you cannot control another person's feelings or decisions, but you can control your own communication, honesty, and kindness. In health, you cannot control your genetic predispositions or certain environmental factors, but you can control your nutrition, exercise, sleep habits, and stress management. Even in tragedy and loss, the dichotomy of control offers guidance. We cannot control death or illness, but we can control how we respond, how we honor our grief, how we support others, and how we find meaning in difficult circumstances. The first week of our 30-day journey will focus on practicing this fundamental distinction. Each day, we'll apply the dichotomy of control to different areas of life: work, relationships, personal goals, social media, news consumption, and more. We'll develop the habit of asking, "Is this within my control?" before investing emotional energy in any situation. You'll be surprised how quickly this simple practice begins to transform your experience. Many people report an immediate sense of relief as they let go of the impossible burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. Others notice a surge in effectiveness as they redirect energy toward what they can actually influence. Remember, the goal isn't to stop caring about external outcomes. It's to recognize that true freedom comes from focusing on what you can control while accepting with equanimity what you cannot. As Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Tomorrow, we'll begin our first practical exercise in applying the dichotomy of control to your daily challenges. For now, simply notice how much of your mental energy is directed toward things outside your influence, and imagine what might change if you redirected that energy toward what truly lies within your power. Yesterday, we explored the dichotomy of control, the fundamental Stoic insight that peace of mind comes from focusing on what we can control while accepting what we cannot. Today, we build directly upon that foundation by examining how we can apply this principle to our most immediate realm of control, our own judgments. The Stoics identified three critical disciplines that form the practical backbone of their philosophy. The first of these, the discipline of assent, deals with how we respond to our impressions of the world. Every moment of every day, our minds are bombarded with impressions, sensory data, thoughts, emotions, and impulses. Most people react to these impressions automatically, allowing their minds to be pulled in countless directions by whatever appears before them. But the Stoics recognize that between any impression and our response lies a crucial space, a moment of choice that represents our most fundamental freedom. Epictetus explained it this way: "Make it your practice to say to every harsh appearance, 'You are just an appearance, and not at all what you appear to be.'" This pause, this moment of questioning our automatic interpretations, is where our true power lies. Consider a simple example. You send an important email to a colleague and they don't respond for 2 days. What happens in your mind? For many of us, automatic judgments arise. They're ignoring me? They don't respect my work. They must be angry about something I said. These judgments feel like facts, but they're actually interpretations, stories we tell ourselves about reality. And these interpretations, not the events themselves, determine our emotional responses. The discipline of assent teaches us to catch these interpretations before they solidify into truth in our minds. It invites us to pause and ask, is this judgment necessary? Is it accurate? Is it helpful? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This isn't merely positive thinking or denial of reality. The Stoics were pragmatic realists. The discipline of assent doesn't ask us to pretend that difficult situations are pleasant, but rather to strip away the unnecessary judgments that amplify our suffering. When we practice this discipline, we learn to distinguish between the bare facts of a situation and the layers of interpretation we add to it. My proposal was rejected is a fact. My proposal was rejected because I'm incompetent and I'll never succeed is an interpretation, one that causes unnecessary suffering and doesn't help us respond effectively. How do we practice this discipline in daily life? The Stoics developed several practical techniques. First, practice naming your impressions precisely. When a troubling thought arises, explicitly label it. I'm having the impression that my friend is angry with me, rather than my friend is angry with me. This simple linguistic shift creates space between you and the thought. Second, question your automatic interpretations, especially those that provoke strong emotional reactions. Ask yourself, is there another way to interpret this situation? What would a wise friend see here that I might be missing? Third, distinguish between facts and opinions. Facts are objective and verifiable. Opinions are subjective judgments about those facts. Train yourself to recognize the difference with statements like, the fact is, my presentation received criticism. My opinion is that this means I'm a failure. This practice becomes particularly powerful when facing adversity. When something challenging occurs, try this Stoic exercise. Write down the bare, objective facts of the situation, stripped of all emotional language and interpretation. Then notice how different this description is from the story your mind automatically constructed. For instance, my flight was delayed by 3 hours is a fact. This whole trip is ruined, and the airline doesn't care about its customers, is an interpretation that adds layers of judgment and emotional charge. The Stoics also recognize that our judgments about what constitutes good and bad are at the root of our emotional disturbances. Epictetus boldly claimed, men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. This insight doesn't mean nothing matters. Rather, it suggests that what truly matters is our virtue, our capacity to respond to life with wisdom, justice, courage, and moderation. External circumstances, while preferred or not preferred, don't determine our worth or our capacity for inner peace. As we practice the discipline of assent, we gradually develop what the Stoics called cognitive distance, the ability to observe our own thoughts without being completely identified with them. Modern psychologists call this metacognition, and research confirms its benefits for emotional regulation and mental health. This doesn't happen overnight. The mind's habit of automatic judgment has been reinforced throughout our lives. But with consistent practice, we can strengthen our ability to pause, question, and choose our responses rather than being driven by unconscious reactions. For the next 5 days, I invite you to practice the discipline of assent with this simple exercise. 3 times each day, morning, midday, and evening, take 2 minutes to notice the judgments currently active in your mind. Don't try to change them, simply observe them with curiosity. Ask yourself, what interpretations am I currently treating as facts? What stories am I telling myself about my experiences? You might be surprised by what you discover. How many unnecessary judgments crowd your consciousness? How many interpretations you've never questioned? How many of your facts are actually opinions in disguise? This practice of mindful awareness is the foundation for all Stoic exercises. As you develop the habit of questioning your automatic judgments, you'll find yourself less reactive, more thoughtful, and increasingly able to maintain tranquility even in challenging circumstances. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate all judgments. That would be impossible, but to ensure that the judgments you do make are conscious choices rather than automatic reactions. As Epictetus said, freedom is not achieved by satisfying desire, but by eliminating it. Tomorrow, we'll explore how the discipline of assent can be applied specifically to our emotional responses, helping us transform destructive emotions into constructive ones. For now, simply practice noticing the space between impression and assent, that momentary freedom that is always available to you, regardless of external circumstances.